Hi, everybody. This is Professor Kelsey Coase, and this is Divination Academy. I'm super excited to have everybody here with me tonight. I am very honored and humbled you are choosing to come work with me. Oh, yay, we have somebody from Wales. Super exciting. I love that. I've never been there. I wish. It looks very beautiful, and that's super cool that you're all the way from there right now. And you're spending your morning with me. Yay, I love it. Okay, so again, my name is Professor Kelsey Coase, and this is the Divination Academy. Since I do see some names I do not recognize, I will do a little bit of housekeeping and then we'll get going with class. So if you just stumbled upon us because of this class or because somebody recommended you, awesome. I'm so happy you're here. I'm so grateful you're here. This is Divination Academy, like I said before. We are a free pagan academy. So what we believe is we believe first and foremost, everything that we do is free. It's accessible to all. We don't charge anything for knowledge and resources and events and anything like that. So that's our core belief in who we are, and that's what we do. We create community, we offer resources, we offer classes for free. How you get access to all of the stuff that we offer is our Facebook page. You'll get access to events, reminders, all sorts of information, and then you can enroll as a student that way as well. If you send us a direct message saying enroll, we'll get you enrolled and you get access to our private community. You'll get access to private chats. You'll get access to other things like certification programs, private apprenticeships, like having a student page to track your progress for all the classes that you have taken. So you get a lot of stuff when you do that. The other thing, another resource that we have for you is our YouTube page. So our YouTube channel, if you go and search divinationacademy.com, we're the only first one that pops up. We have over 180 videos already posted. We have more waiting to get posted, and we have more classes coming up. So we have lots of content for you to go watch for free on lots of topics like herbalism, the history, mythology, the jinn. I do a series about working with demons on there. I have dark goddesses on there. We have alchemy. We have so many different things on there. So you can definitely go take a peek at that. And then the last resource that we have for you is our website. So divinationacademy.com. You'll find out more information about professors like me and other professors that teach here. You'll find out information about our director and our founder. You'll find out information about classes. You'll find resources and study guides and just a lot of stuff there. So you can definitely check that out as well. So the last little bit of housekeeping they have is just because, again, I do see names I don't recognize. You want to know who you're learning from. You want to know who your teacher is. So again, my name is Professor Kelsey Coase. I have been a solitary practitioner for about 15 plus years now. I live in Minnesota in the Midwest. So my magic is very, focused in elemental work and energy work. I work with deities a lot. I consider myself a mystic and a gray witch. So I pull from everywhere, every pantheon. I literally pull as much knowledge and practices that I possibly can. I've studied underneath a lot of different types of masters like shamanism and ceremonial magic and a lot of things. And then from a gray witch perspective, I live in duality in the liminal space. I don't teach just from love and light only, and I don't teach just from like the darkness and the shadows. I teach from everywhere. I really teach about the blending of the both of those energies and how it's our responsibility as practitioners and human beings to live in duality, to have balance in the universe. And that's how I teach, and that's who I am. So I'm so happy to have all of you guys here. Tonight, we are in one of my 8 series I'm teaching right now, which is called the Magic and Witchcraft Basics series. We are doing elements and elemental witchcraft tonight. I'm super pumped because this is a core foundation that you really need to know comes to magic and witchcraft. And if you really want to be able to manipulate energy and get the desires that you want with manifestation and alignment, understanding the elements, understanding those energies, understanding all of the energies within the multiverse that are existing with around you is going to be very paramount and very fundamental. So I love this topic. You'll see when it comes to elements and elemental witchcraft, it bleeds into everywhere. It makes it easier for you to set up your altars. It makes it easier for you to be able to set up and connect to deities, to connect to ascended masters, to connect to other entities. It makes it easier for you to create rituals and spells, to be able to write things, to be able to manifest. It just creates so much more potent energy, and you'll be able to understand your place as well within the multiverse and the universe. So that's why this is just super important. before we get going, do we have any questions, any comments? Does anybody else need the link to the study guide? And since I do have new students here, I teach directly from that study guide that I put in the link. You guys get that to keep with you, to go with you. I mean, you will have access to it on the website as well. This is exactly what I'll be teaching from. You'll get extra stuff, obviously, as I'm going, but this is as if like people do slideshow presentations. This is what I do. I do study guides. So this is what I'll be teaching from. So if there's no other questions, if you are brand new to learning how to work with energies, what books do you recommend? So for energy work specifically, I do have a list of books in my study guide for my class that I taught already on energy work specifically. And then I've added a big list of resources as well to our website. And then, because energy work's a little bit different than working with the elements. But I do have books specifically listed in that study guide for you that you can definitely take a peek at. And then if I have time at the end of class, I will come back and I can pull some up. I have some PDFs as well that I can put into the chat for you as well. How would a walk-in or a star child tap into the elements respectfully, since they technically would not be the same elements from that individual's original home? I guess I don't agree with that, because as being like a star child and stepping into that elements, yes, you are from you may be from another planet technically, and as part of like another lifetime essentially, but you are a human in this essence and in this sense. You are living the earth, and this realm is your home. So you have the ability and the capability to tap into those energies the same way that we would. This is the realm you are choosing to reside in. So I don't see why that would be any other different when it would be connecting to the elements in any way, shape, or form. I guess I just don't see that. If you differ from that, that's totally fine. And I would have to look into finding some more information for you on that, because this is your realm that you're choosing to be a part of. This is the realm you're choosing to guide. This is the realm you're choosing to help. This is the realm you're choosing to be a part of. So for me, I don't see why it would be any different for you to connect to that, because it is you become connected to the energies of the environment that you are a part of. The environment that you are in is going to affect you. So that's kind of why I see it that way. But we can totally talk about it too after class. I have no problem. And then that's a good recommendation, Paul. I agree with that recommendation for a book. Okay, so let's jump into the study guide here, because we have to go over tonight here, guys, as well. I honestly could teach an entire series with multiple classes in it on this topic. It's very, very extensive. I didn't even get to cover everything that I want to in this class tonight. For example, we could do an entire series specifically on tools attached to each specific element. So we could do that specifically even. But what we'll be covering tonight is the basics and cores of what the element energies, what they represent, what they correspond to, how you can connect with them. We're going to go over some folklore and some history, so that you have a basis and understanding for why we as humans think that they represent and attach to the correspondences and the energies that they attach to. Because I always want you guys to know why things represent what they represent, not just be told, well, this represents this, and this is why. So I do have the folklore for each one. We're gonna go over how to connect with them a little bit. We're gonna go over what's specifically unique about those magics, how they interact with other elements, and then we will also talk about elementals, because I call in elementals every single time I do a circle or anybody's work. So let's see here. Let's jump in. I just got to pull up here for me. Okay, let's jump into our study guide here tonight, guys. Okay, also disclaimer, because I do have new people in here. You can put as many questions as you would like to in the chat. I may not see them right away. I get distracted by the chat. I jump out. I do pause and go look at everything, but like I said, put them in whenever you want. I just may not answer you immediately. Okay, when it comes to elements and elemental witchcraft, the basis of life is in the 5 elements. Like we only live and survive because of these 5 elements, because of earth, air, fire, water, and spirit. The earth is the element that represents everything beneath us. It provides our shelter, our stability, and our nourishment. And it's the place that we call home. We breathe the air around us. It fills our lungs and our blood with life-giving oxygen. And fire gives us our heat, our protection. It lets us also cook our food. And water, I mean, as humans, we're made up of 60% of this element. So we need it very much so to survive. And then when it comes to this element of spirit, that really is our magical fountain within each of us. It's our individual source of magic. It's also our connection to the divine, the spirit, the collectiveness. It's the collective and all the interwovenness. This element specifically is also, Vincent, why I kind of answered your question that way, because it is the collective that this spirit represents. The collective is the multiverse. It is not specifically just one planet. So because we have this element that wraps all of these beautiful elements together, is also why I answered that question that way. Because again, it's the multiverse. It's not just Earth that the spirit represents. Okay, so that's a brief overview of what the elements will represent, and then we're going to dive really deep into them here in just a minute. Before we begin, I do want to make a note that what we're talking about tonight, like I talked about before, it won't cover all of it. Elemental magic is incredibly complex and also very simple at the same time. It does require very deep understanding of the elements and their properties, and these like making sure that you have a basis foundational understanding of the elemental magic and approach so that you can respect it and have caution. So it just serves to know that everything I'm talking about tonight is not exhaustive. There's so much more to it. It also may not be exhaustive. It may not be accurate for every single practice, path, culture. There are so many different representations when it comes to the elements. What I'm talking about tonight is going to be the most commonly used, which a lot of it pulls from the Greek philosophy and the Wiccan philosophy together. They're very similar. It's a very fine distinction between the two, but most of it's going to pull from there. That's most commonly what people use. But like I said, you will see different representations. For example, you have in a lot of Native American indigenous cultures from North America, you'll see the medicine wheel, which connects to the elements, and that represents us a little bit differently. You have the Chinese culture, they have different elements that represent different things. Japanese culture, the elements are different. Hinduism, the elements are different. So it's a different system. You do just see them all. Almost every culture has some system to represent it. So just keep that in mind as well. Like I said, this isn't completely exhaustive. So there's always going to be more to study. I'm always still learning about this. And then take in what works for you and what resonates for you and what doesn't. One element may resonate to you in a different way than it does for somebody else. So for example, when it comes to like the element of earth, some people may find earth like incredibly like comforting and grounding, and it really provides them like that stability, whereas other people, when they work with earth, it may pull out more of like their stubbornness and more of those type of qualities that are coming out of it, and they may not react to it quite the same way. It may not be quite so comforting. When it comes to like the element of water, for example, some people may find it incredibly comforting to go into the depths of what water all has to bring to you with your psyche, your emotions, and all of that. Other people, it may be absolutely terrifying. It may not be a comforting element for them. So make sure you also sit with these elements to figure out how they represent, how they connect with you, and how they're calling to you. So figure out how you also specifically want to work with them. So what is elemental magic at all, like to begin with? Elemental magic refers to magic of the elements of the nature earth, air, fire, water, spirit. Most spells and rituals will typically consist of using a single element related to a specific goal of the caster, but you may also contain more than one element, and you may also have all of them. Most often or not, you'll see them used that way because the most most commonly used way that elemental magic is used is when casting a circle, or as some people call it, calling in the quarters. So you'll see it very often in that used in that sense. And then you'll also see elemental magic used in a lot of other practices as well. When it comes to like working with deities and invoking deities, you'll see in alchemy, you'll see in a lot of different practices. Um, Most elemental magic also really only requires very basic ingredients. For example, like a bowl of water, some stone rocks, some candles, a feather, some incense. So very basic, simple ingredients that can be found anywhere, which is what makes it also a very commonly used practice. It makes it very fundamentally used practice, and why you see it used so often. Um, Before we get into the elements as well, the other thing that we do need to touch on just briefly, because like I said, I did already teach a 2-hour class on energy work, so I don't want to dive into that because that's not the topic for tonight. But we do have to touch on energy work and energy just briefly, because everything that we touch is energy. So we are energy, I'm energy, you're energy, the chair you're sitting on, energy, the device you're using to watch this is energy, touching the dirt, like everything is energy. Everything that we touch is energy. So energy is the foundation of elemental magic. So you have to make sure that you're aligned with your thoughts, you're aligned with your actions, that you have all that there, because that is there to guide that energy and direct that energy. And energy is really what you're using with the elemental magic. You're using the energy of the elements to manipulate the circumstances to get what you would like. And I say that that's not in a bad way. Let's see here. And then, okay, I think that's what I want to talk about with energy. Like I said, I don't want to dive into energy because I already taught a class on that. So if you missed that, I do have a link to my blog post all about that. And then the class has not been posted on YouTube yet, but it should be soon. So you should be able to watch that soon. So let's dig into the 5 elements and exactly what they are. We'll start getting the nitty gritty of what they are. So depending on your practice and your magical journey, you may already know this or not know this, but a lot of people think that there's only 4 elements. There's not. There's 5, at least 5. Some practices even use more. So if this is new to you, you're gonna learn tonight that there's 5. If it's not new to you, hopefully I teach you some new information with it. If you started your path and your journey in Wicca, you probably already have heard about, there being 5 elements. If you started with alchemy, if you started studying Chinese cultures, Japanese cultures, Greek cultures, Buddhist cultures, there's a lot of African tribes that have certain elemental wheels and medicine wheels that also have 5 elements or more on them. The Babylonian cultures also had more than 4 elements as well. It's very commonly known and pops up in Greek philosophy and Greek culture. It pops up very heavily there. It's known as the ether or aether. You'll see that very commonly referenced. But each of these 5 elements, they are the fundamental building blocks of the universe, and they symbolically represent various stages and forms of matter. They represent, and each of these elements have their own qualities, their own correspondences, and specific energies that you have the ability to tie into and work with your manifestation, your magic, and all of your energy manipulation. The 5 elements, like I've talked about before, you'll most commonly see them with casting circle. That's usually when you'll see them. Almost every circle I do, I call on the 5 elements at least. I call on the elementals. It's very common for me to do. I rarely have an altar that doesn't have all the elements represented. That's the most common ways that you'll see them worked with. If you do need to learn how to cast a circle and work with the circles, I already taught a class on that too. So the study guide links in the study, a link to the study guide for that class is in the study guide for this class, and then a link also for that class is already posted on YouTube, and it's a study guide too for you. But that is a very common way where you'll see all the elements used, and most often or not where you've probably already experienced working with the elements and elemental witchcraft. Okay, so before we get really deep into it, I'm going to jump in the chat. We're going to see if you guys have any questions, any comments. Okay, let's see. Ooh, let me look through the chat. I don't know that one, Paul. Practical Elemental Magic. I haven't read that one by David. Okay. Wiccan Elemental Magic. I've read that by Lisa Chamberlain. That's a good recommendation. I've heard that as well, Vincent. I've heard that theory. Is the oceans all being connected because it's all variation of water, and that's the one thing that like every planet is going to have in common within um the council and within the multiverse. So I've heard that as well. Um, so yeah, I can see that and agree too. Okay. Anybody have any questions, any comments so far? It's okay. It's totally okay, Robin. That's totally fine. Get it. Life happens, and I would rather you make sure you feel okay. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm gonna jump back in. I don't see any questions, any other comments. Okay, so up first, we're gonna dive deep into Earth. So Earth is the element. It's incredibly powerful. It is our planetary home. It's where all life abounds. It's the source of our sustenance. It is Earth. The element of Earth represents all the natural cycles, including growth and harvest and decay and regeneration. It's all wrapped up into this. It represents the fact that Earth is full of so many different topographical landscapes. It's so diverse, it's so varied, and it has the capability to do so much. I mean, Earth is full of vast, deep caves. It's full of reaching mountains. It's full of dense forests. It has a diverse flora and fauna. Like the element of Earth represents so much like creation and so much creativity and expansion and so much ability. Like it inhabits so much. Depending on the tradition, like I said, Earth's magical practice, they may vary, but most often or not, it's growth, and also grounding. And like I said, the stability and really grounding a person. It also may be associated, though, on the other hand, with death and psychic abilities because Earth is that entire natural cycle. So for some people, they may not see it as this bright, grounding, growing energy. It may help them more in that death, decay, psychic kind of energy and psychic way and psychic abilities. Also in Wiccan and a lot of Western magical traditions, the element of Earth is very often considered a divine feminine energy and very much considered the Earth, like an Earth mother, and considered like the goddess. So that's also very commonly known for what this element can represent. The element of Earth not only is about embodiment, stability, and grounding and all the natural cycles, but it's also about material abundance. Because if you think about an element of Earth, Earth provides us with almost everything that we need for sustenance. Like it provides us our sustenance for living. It enables, so because of this, it is all about like that energy of abundance, making sure that we have everything that we need, that this is the element that allows us to manifest our dreams. It allows us to manifest our desires. It allows us to be very anchored in our intentions, to be very anchored and grounded and connected to our physical realm, our physical body, and our physical sense. This element is also great and very much connected to balance and finding our balance and being able to go with the natural rhythms of nature, which also leads to resilience. Because you're able to go with everything that nature can bring at you and going naturally with the natural cycle of it. Because it's connected to abundance, it gets connected to most of the practical areas of our life as well, which means physical health, fertility, all of that practicalness that we need as humans to simply survive, keep existing, and thriving. This energy, as well with the element of Earth, can be all about, because it's grounding in who we are, its stability, its strength. It can be also about establishing clear boundaries. So a lot of times you'll see it popping up with that energy as well. It creates that boundaries with space. It creates that boundaries with you and who you are, the boundaries with your intentions, so that you can actually very tangibly connect to the abundant energy of the element of Earth to get your manifestations to come to fruition. In spell work, you're very often the element of earth used, like I said, for grounding and centering, for bringing abundance and prosperity, also for intuition, and then I personally really love earth when it comes to shadow work. Earth and water are my two favorite elements when it comes to working with like shadow work and stuff like that. It may be because I'm I'm in like the I have so much earth in my chart, it's insane. So that may be also why. But I just it makes you grounded while you're going into shadow work. It gives you that stability, and then it gives you access to those very deep caverns and vast areas within of who you are, which is another reason why I like it. Or we'll talk about it, but because it's so connected to emotions, yes, you can go deep into your psyche, but earth just it brings you to these caverns, these dense forests, these dark places of yourself you just didn't even know was there because the earth is so vast. There's just so much territory. Okay, let's dive in now to some of the folklore that has to do with Earth and some of the stories that we have in mythologies and legends, which make it to why we have the understanding of what Earth represents now. So when it comes to Earth, much of the focus of the folklore is about the creation of the planet and how the planet was actually formed. So when you're looking for folklore, myths, legends about the Earth, this is majority of what you're going to come across. Um, so I obviously can't put every single Earth creation myth and legend in the study guide. We would be here for weeks, months, even maybe possibly, because there's just so many and so many cultures. But I do have it pretty summarized here. So we'll go over that kind of quickly and kind of some of the main ones. So most of the myths when it comes to Earth, like I said, they shed a great deal of light on the magical association with the element of Earth when it comes to rebirth, fertility, abundance, growth, death, all of that. So the name Earth comes from the Norse goddess Jord, which is pronounced, I'm not going to be able to pronounce it, but it's spelled Yurdth. So which is it's considered the personification of Earth. So while she's not actually an official goddess of the North pantheon, it is believed that she actually was coupled with Odin in order to bear a son, who's actually Thor, and that's a whole other thing. Jord actually was believed to be the life force of the planet, causing trees and fruit and seeds and everything to sprout, which made her very strongly associated with fertility and birth and new beginnings. Then her personification was adopted by quite a number of cultures across Europe, and then she was eventually became known as Mother Earth or Mother Nature. Then when we look at Greek mythology, we have a very similar goddess as a very similar story that's known as Gaia. And then, according to Greek creation myth, Gaia, the earth, actually emerged from chaos without assistance at all. She bore Uranus, the sky, who then fertilized her. And then, from this union, the Titans were born, and they were the gods and goddesses. And then, the Greek pantheon was born from the Titans, and blah, 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 blah. I'm going to be teaching a class event in my series on pantheons and religions, so I don't want to like go super down that road. And then, as such, Gaia then becomes a personification of Earth and becomes a mother of all. And then we also see that a correlation in Roman mythology with Terra, which means Earth as well. Then, I mean, we also see it even popping up even further back in the Babylonian myth, where Earth is literally the great goddess Tiamat's body split in half. Like literally, that is what their creation myth is with Earth. So we see so many different versions of the folklore of Earth coming up in this sense. Usually, they almost all have two things in common. The Earth is usually a feminine figure, and it's almost always associated with birth. You'll also almost always see another theme of chaos. Kind of, so not always, but very often you'll see chaos coming about. A lot of times you'll see kind of some type of disagreement with children kind of happens. You'll see a lot of that also too, when it comes to myths and things like that. Other creation myths that you'll come across that have to do with the element of earth specifically have to do with golems. So this comes from Jewish folklore, and a golem is an animated human-like creature that's made of mud and clay. It's created through ritual work. It's brought to life by its life givers, and it's bound to its life givers. Some reports say that to bring a golem to life, there is a Hebrew equivalent of the word Shem, which is actually just written on a piece of paper. It's then placed in the golem's mouth. And then other reports say that there's actually like a tag which means truth, that's written on the forehead of the golem. Some say that they've seen kill, and then there's a paper on it that says kill, and then once it's removed, or the last letter of the word truth actually like is removed, and the golem will simply just die. So that's another folklore that you see. There's lots and lots of different versions of golems. It's a very interesting topic to look into. Um, and then when it comes to the rest of the folklore, when it comes to Earth, it really focuses on a lot of it focuses on ley lines, and which are the grid of the Earth's energy that actually circle the globe. They're thought to connect important sacred sites. In the British Isles, these lines were sometimes referred to as fairy paths, and it was actually believed to be very dangerous to walk along them for fears that you'll actually be like snatched up, taken by some fairies. In general, though, these lines are thought to connect sacred sites. A lot of times they'll be connected by hilltops and countrysides. They're very, very commonly accepted as liminal spaces and spaces in between realms. And still today we view them this way. If you go look into a lot of stuff when it comes to ley lines, like it is recognized as a very, very, very potent energy in a very liminal space. So that pretty much sums up folklore when it comes to the element of earth. That gives you the idea and understanding of why we have the views that we do about the correspondence and representations element of earth. Like I said, I couldn't give you every single creation myth. I couldn't, there's just no way. So you can definitely learn more, connect more to the element of earth by going and reading some more creation myths of your own and learning more about those creation myths and getting more details so you can understand the element of earth, and what it really means when it comes to abundance and all of that sustainability. Um, Correspondences that are going to attach the element of earth. Like I said, these are the most common ones. The list is pretty extensive. But first, what is a correspondence? If I know I have students that haven't been here with me before. So a correspondence is an item or a symbol that's meant to connect you to a specific energy through its representation. It's also seen as an item to respect, honor, or venerate that energy as well. You'll often see correspondences used to connect to deities, to connect to certain phases of the moon, to connect to archetype energies, to connect to ascended masters, and then connect to elements, like we'll talk about now. So for the element of earth, it is considered a feminine. The gender correspondence will be feminine. The planet is connected to also is going to be Venus and Saturn. Time is going to be midnight. So that's going to be a very important time for earth element magic. Season's going to be the winter. Direction's going to be north. And then the tarot cards are going to be the pentacles and coins. For the zodiac signs, you have Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. The symbolisms and themes and spell works that you can connect to are going to be grounding, strength, healing, success, stability, material items, material things, sturdiness, steadfastness, foundations, empathy, fertility, death, rebirth, harvesting, wisdom, nature, animals, plants, money, prosperity, herbs, like so many things. Symbols that you can use are going to be anything that's really of the earth that really reminds you and represents you of the earth. So plains, soils, fields, stones, trees, gardens, canyons, forests, mountains, all of that. There is a plethora of deities you could choose to work with that will help you connect to the element of earth. You can do this by representing like its seasons even and the earth itself. So Carradine, which by the way I did teach class on Carradine already. The study guide's on the website. Demeter, Gaia, Terra, Persephone. I taught a class on her already as well. That's already on YouTube. You can watch. She's my patron deity. I love her. You have Thoth, Adonis. You have Marduk. You have Gaia, Geb. You have so many that you can look into. Just follow your intuition and feel which deity, if you want to work with deities, is really pulling you to the element of earth. For me, like I connect to the element of earth very specifically through Persephone. I don't really connect to the element of earth through Gaia. I don't have that. I've never had that very strong connection going that way, but through Persephone, like I do. Carradine as well, very strong way to very as well for the element of earth. So really kind of feel it out. Some nature spirits that are going to help you connect to the element of earth as well. So if you want to work with other entities outside of just working with deities, you have gnomes, fairies, trolls, dwarfs, dryads, and fauns. For colors, you have the greens, the browns, the blacks, and the golds. For foods and drinks, you have beer and vodka, whiskey, alcohol, bread, salt, garlic, onions, potatoes, rice, oats, things like that. Herbs, you're going to want to use things that are very kind of like earthy. So oak and cedar. You have sage, ivy, honeysuckle, grains, ponchuli. That's one of my favorites to work with earth. Um, you have any of the roots, rice. You can use moss, lilac, um, nuts, things like that. For crystals or gemstones, you can use emerald, peridot, amethyst. You have quartz, tiger's eyes, fluorite. I really like green adventurine when it comes to connecting to earth, and a lot of the mosses. Moss agate is one of my favorites. Tree agate as well. Black tourmaline works really well too. And then animals are going to be things like, wolves, horses, stags, deers, cows, anything really of the earth. But very common ones are these, gophers, snake, worms, moles, things like that. What's unique when it comes to the element of earth is that earth really works in conjunction with all of the elements because it sustains life for this planet. I mean, when you really, really think about how earth works with the other elements, earth feeds the fire. Earth also requires water for growth. It produces air for things for flora and fauna, for flora to flora to grow. In conjunction with water, it can also, though, earth can also have the ability to suffocate fire and to put fire out. It also has the ability to suffocate air. It has the ability to suffocate humans. It has the ability to impede water and stop the flow of water from its natural flow and to stop things from happening. So it really does like work in conjunction with all of the elements in a very unique and interesting way. Ways that you can connect with Earth specifically. If you are of an Earth zodiac sign, you may feel a stronger affinity to this element. And it may be easy for you to facilitate and work with the element of Earth to be able to make change, and your manifestation and your magic may be more potent if you have Earth a little bit more represented in your spell work and your ritual work. So again, Earth zodiac signs are Taurus, Capricorn, and Virgo. Otherwise, ways to connect to the element of earth are going to be growing and maintaining gardens or herbs, making herbal infusion and brews. You can also bury spells in the earth. That's something I really like to do. You can give back resin. What's the word that I'm looking for? Dispose of remnants from spells also to the earth. Oh my goodness, my nose just itches. You can use different kinds of dirt and sand in your spells. I could literally do a class specifically on the magic of different kinds of dirt, by the way, guys. Like, I could literally break that down. So that's another topic to look into. You can do kitchen witchcraft. You can do mountain witchcraft. You can look at herbal offerings to gods or ancestors and adding that to your altar. You can make spell bags with herbs and crystals a part of it. You can do spell jars with herbs and crystals a part of it. You can grow a plant that's intended to grow and align specifically with a magical intention. I've done this a few times before to where that plant is specifically for a very specific energy, a very, very specific manifestation, and that's the energy I'm feeding and growing it with. You can use salt to cleanse your sacred space, which is working with the element of earth. You can do divination using rune stones and crystals. You can do healing with crystals and stones and herbs because working with crystals is working with the element of earth. You can work with garden fairies and gnomes. You can align your root chakra and your heart chakras. You can work with tree magic. You can create magical wreaths. You can wear and use earth element colors and use color magic. This honestly, this is just the beginning. The list could be very, very long and exhaustive, but this is a great start. You can get out in nature and experience nature very mindfully. You can hike, you can camp, you can do all of that. Like, there's so many different things that you can do. Okay, let me jump in the chat, see if you guys have any questions about Earth before we jump into air. Okay. Let's me look in the chat now. Honey, yes, golems are very interesting. I agree with Paul as well. Ley lines is a very, that's not, yes, I agree, Paul. You have to know what you're doing to work with things. It's a very liminal space. I'm reading Vince's comment. Hold on, honey. Okay, so Vincent's comment, also Earth is headed in multiple directions or a two-way street and can be used to undo things, whereas fire is more linear and headed in one direction as related to entropy. Also, like time is a flat circle versus time goes in one direction. Both are true values depending on your perspective. Totally agree with that. Totally agree, Vincent. You always have great feedback. Okay, go ahead, honey.
Not a question, but may I throw something out there?
I always encourage that.
Um, since Earth is very feminine heavy, soft and subtle in that, I also just wanted to say there is a Chinese myth where a man actually is the world, or male deity thing that created the world, and it's really interesting. If anyone wants to look it up, it's called Panko Creates the World. Panko is his name.
Yep.
And it has to do with an egg and imbalance and destruction and then flourishing. It's just very interesting. So I just want to try and get that balance of both in there.
Thank you for putting that in there. I should have put that in there too. I told myself to. Because thank you. Yes, that story is very interesting. It's one of, I think it's so far the only one I've found where it isn't feminine. I do really, it is a very interesting story. So thank you so much, honey, for bringing that up. I made a note, so I make sure I added after this because I knew I was forgetting something as I was proofreading. So thank you, honey. You always do that for me, and I love it. Okay, any other questions or comment, guys, before we jump into the elements of air? Like I said, we got a lot to cover tonight, and I didn't even get everything I wanted. Elements and elemental magic is a lot. So this is, like I said, very basics. It wouldn't surprise me if I eventually teach break down all the elements separately. Okay, let's jump into air next. Okay, so air is the element of wisdom and communication, reasoning, logic, breath. Like we need it to fill our lungs and to breathe and to circulate our like to circulate our blood. Like we need it. It is really the perfect element to work with during fall months because this is a very shifting time, very shifting times of seasons. Also, with the fall months, you have Mabon, you have Samhain during that time, which really pulls us inwards and really makes us assess our situation. It really makes us like take this very big deep breath to like communicate, to get ready, to prepare for the long winter ahead of us. And so like that's why it's a great time to work with that element. um Element of air is incredibly powerful in so many ways. it it's literally all around us. We feel it in our breath, we feel it on our skin around us, we feel it and see it in the sways of trees. It is literally, it is movement at its absolute purest form. And it is really the energy that spreads the seed of life. It is what spreads the seed to change our landscapes across the earth. If you think about it, like that is how a lot of things even get pollinated. It allows creatures to move in the sky amongst us and be able to have a way to actually move and get to places they need to go. It holds the stars, the clouds, and so much above us is where a lot of our celestial bodies. It's how we connect to them. It is considered both a seen and an unseen force, which makes us this very enigmatic energy. It's why it is great for communication and reasoning and logic and wisdom, because it has this ability to move in and out, and it carries so much energy with it to do that. It is our intellect, our inspiration. It is our transformation. Like I said, it's everywhere. It's seen, it's unseen, it's all over the place. It's our thoughts, it's our ideas. If you've been to some of my ceremonies before in my circle castings, I almost always talk about that, and I talk about the fact that like change happens on the breath and the movement of air. Like that is how change and transformation happens. That's how knowledge gets moved. That's how growth happens. Is literally all on the breath of air. Like that's really what that represents. Is really what it taps into. With, like I said, with that comes our intellect. It comes our intellectual capacities, our intuition, our ability to even enter our energy and freely just flow with it, because air is just, it is very much like free flowing when you look at it. um and again, this is effective communication, clear thinking, transformation. Just want to make okay. So when it comes to the air folklore and some myths and legends and what we have to go off of with air, much of the folklore associated there actually encompasses weather magic and the wind itself. That's mainly what you'll see, what you'll find when you start digging and looking into air folklore, when you're looking at air elements and magic. In Greek mythology specifically, you have the Anemoi, which were the four winds, and each of them corresponded to the four cardinal directions as well. They were considered the children of Eos and the goddess of dawn, Aelios. So Eos, and then Aeolus. By the way, if you're new with me, I'm awful at pronouncing. No matter how many times I listen to a word or name over and over and over again and try to mimic it, I'm really bad at it. So I try, and then I'll spell it for you. If you know how to pronounce it, you can always cut me off and do it. I will never be offended. But then, so you have the goddess of the dawn and then the keeper of the winds. Those are the parents of the four winds. Um, so the first was the sun Boreas, which is the god of the north wind and the bringer of the cold of winter, typically depicted with a beard, a short pleated tunic, and he's said to have a very violent temper. There's actually a myth that involves him and a princess of Athens who refused to marry him. So he actually stole her away to marry her in the clouds, and they later had two sons and two daughters together. It's a very common theme when it comes to Greece. A lot of women don't get married underneath the act of consent. But from then on, it was seen that because of that marriage, became a lot more protective, and he would actually protect Athens from neighboring kingdoms. So there's a legend that shows up around 480 BC referencing him, to where it says that he actually supposedly sank 400 Persian ships that threatened Athens, and that solidified him as an even more prominent deity, and he was worshipped a little bit more as well. And then there's the second son, Zephyrus or Zephyr, which is the god of the west wind, and he is the gentlest of the winds, blowing in the spring, which with much warmer weather. He appears in a number of stories, each one of them typically depicting him with a different lover, both male and female. And because of all his like different relationships like that, they ended up making him more of a fertility god. Which also makes sense as well when you look at him being associated to spring. And spring is spring's the year. Spring is the season of fertility. You then have the god of the south wind, Notice, which is associated with the hot wind and the summer. Typically would blow in around the summer solstice, and usually brought in late summer storms. There's lots of myths surrounding him, the stories where he pops up. And then you have Eurus, Eurs, which is god of the east winds. He was believed to be responsible for the very turbulent winds during storms at sea. So you would actually see him often on ships and with seafarers, where they would try to appease him to ensure safe trip. And they would place a lot of protection charms that had to do with him to actually be able to ward off any ill will. In other traditions, air is also very deeply associated with breath and the life giver. So in ancient Greece, you also see this pop up where the breath of life was referred to as Funa. I'm not going to be able to pronounce it. Pneuma. I'll talk about that later because that's a very extensive topic. And when I get into the Greek pantheon and mythology, But I just wanted to mention it here because it does coexist, that life, it does coexist. It is mentioned that like we cannot exist without life, and that when life ceases to exist, we no longer have breath. So there's a lot of just Greek superstitions that come up around that. You also have some that still are used modern day. For example, I did this all the time when I was younger. I don't know about you guys, but there's a superstition in the legend that you definitely need to hold your breath anytime you're passing the cemetery. That you should hold your breath, because if you are breathing and you're going past the cemetery, a spirit of somebody who recently passed away could come in and go inside your body. I don't think growing up I ever passed a cemetery and didn't hold my breath. Like, literally very dramatically in the car as well. Like, so I know like this still, you can still see this. There are other sorry, in multiple other cultures around the world, you see other tales like this where you might have a night hag that will come and take your breath, or a demon who sits on your chest and steals your breath away. A lot of times, like that's associated with causing sleep paralysis in some legends. There are even some legends, like in England, where it's believed that cats could actually like suck an infant's breath away, causing a baby to die. So like there's lots and lots of different things and different legends throughout lots of different cultures that talk about the fact that breath represents life, and it's really, really linked to that idea. Um, so correspondences when it comes to the element of air. Again, remember, correspondence is an item or symbol that's meant to connect you to that specific energy through its representation. So the gender is going to be masculine, planets are going to be Mercury and Jupiter, time is going to be dawn, season is going to be spring, and direction is going to be east. The tarot cards are going to be the wands or swords, depending on the tradition that you're using, the card decks you're using. The zodiac signs are going to be Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. For symbols, you have intelligence, wisdom, knowledge, logic, thought, communication, truth, inspiration, creativity, intuition, and memory. For symbols, you have the wand, a feather. That's my feather, by the way. That's like my go-to, like altar spell. If I don't have incense, if I don't like, that's my go-to thing, by the way, is a feather. Like I love using a feather as a correspondence for the element of air. But feathers, wands, staffs, incense, pens, brooms, bells, swords. Also, I work with a katana. That's one of my go-to ritual items. So swords, I also use that in that as well. And then you have skies, winds, breeze, breath, and wind chimes. There are quite a few deities, but some that you can start working with are going to be Zeus, you have Thoth, Aradia, you have Shu, Hermes, and then all of the deities, the wind that we talked before. You have nature spirits that you can work with are going to be winged fairies, sprite spirits, sliffs, and ziphers. Colors are going to be yellow, gold, white, light blue, and pastels. And then foods that are going to connect you more to this element are going to be beans and lentils, grains, carbonated beverages, popcorn, tofu, vinegar, rice cakes, like dates, chickweed, things like that. Herbs are going to be more like bergamot, peppermint, dandelion, primrose. You're going to have aspen, pine, myrrh, dill, clover, frankincense, things like that. Crystals and gemstones are going to be amber, citrine, jasper, agate, amethyst, fluorite, I always have a hard time saying that one. Alexite, and then amber. I really like topaz and citrine, just personally, when it comes to element of air, for crystals. And then ways to connect to the element of air. If you're an air zodiac sign, this is probably going to be a very powerful magic for you. It's probably going to be very easy for you to facilitate this magic, to facilitate this energy, and this correspondence is probably going to amplify a lot of things for you. Your spells and how you work with them, like just like with Earth, can be as complicated as you want, or they can be as simple as you want. So you can do something just simple as literally making a wish while blowing bubbles. I love doing that. It's a great manifestation technique. Really also fun too. I've taught my son, my 3-year-old does this. I love doing this. You can burn incense as an offering to the gods to manifest your intentions. You can write your air spell on a piece of paper and then literally take it somewhere that's high enough to where you can let it go and let it blow off. You can also take your incense and you can write spells in the air. You can literally take your smoke and you can write a very intentional words in the air for manifestation and direct your energy. That's a super favorite thing that I love to do. Like if I'm working on an abundance spell, I will literally take that incense stick and I will write abundance with that to like add that element and add that extra potency on top of that. Because this is connected to your intellect and all of that, keeping a magical grimoire and a book of shadows, making sure you're actually doing that. You're keeping that information, you're studying, you're adding to your intellect, you're adding to your knowledge. That's connecting to your element of air. Doing that is simply doing that. Making a wish or blowing out your birthday candles. That's connecting the element of air. That is literally using the element of air to create manifestation and to guide and direct energy. Whenever you're doing any type of smoke cleansing, whether you're using incense or herb bundles, that is working with the element of air. Balloon magic, storm magic, you can do cloud scrying, you can do whispering air spells into the wind. That's something I love to do if it's a really, really windy day and you just go out and literally stand in that wind, you ground, like you center, you ground, you call your energy in, like you're very much in your sacred space. The next breath of wind that comes through you, you recite your spell, your wish, your intention, your manifestation, and you let it release off onto that wind going through your body. You can also use it as a cleansing technique, doing it that way too. Other ways that you can also connect is automatic writing or scripting, because you're downloading information, you're working with your intellect, all of that. You can sing your intentions, chanting, doing daily affirmations, and feather magic, which is the type of divination that you can do as well. What makes the magic of air a little bit more unique is because it works in conjunction with all other elements. It's the same life. But when you think about how it works, again, air can fuel fire, it can move earth, it can make clouds with water, but then air can also snuff everything out if it's not there. If it's too much, it can do that. It can cool us off when we need to be hot. Like it can be actually very, 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 very destructive. It can blow things down. It can blow houses down. Like without air, we literally can't survive. We can't speak anything into existence, and there's no movement. Okay, I'm gonna jump in the chat before we jump into the element of water. Let's see what we got here. Something else I noticed is stars and planets or star satellite objects are usually opposite genders of each other in the mist where they are found. Yeah, that's a whole other thing. Yeah, I agree. Also interesting how in Eastern traditions, dragon folk are associated with wind, creation, nurturing, and medicine, and in Western, dragons are largely associated with fire, air, and destruction and hoarding. Yep, I have those differences too. I don't have extensive knowledge in draconian magic. That is a newer topic that I just got into in the last like 2 years. But so far in my study in that, I have seen those two differences. I will say I've noticed that as well, Vincent, to where, once the world they see it very much nurturing and very much creation and medicine. On the other side, it's a lot more destructive. Is air also tied to invisible processes like invisible labor, invisible visibility, and secretive work / hiding in plain sight? Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I would say yeah. For me, that for me that when I read that, like it pulled more towards water and earth for me, but I could also see how the connection to air would connect to that as well, because it is such an unseen force. But I personally, reading that, Vincent, would pull more towards water and earth. Oh, Taoist, man. Ooh. Yes, all that practice. I've been actually studying underneath a Taoist master for like the last like I'm almost done with the teaching program. That's been very interesting. Okay, go ahead, Paul. What do you got for me? I read through the chat.
Okay, couple of things. Firstly, when you're pronouncing Greek names, because you said you were struggling, pronounce it as it's written.
I will try to do better with
Also, to do with what Vincent was asking in the chat about being hidden.
it.
Um, as you say, you can use all of the elements, but it kind of relates to fire and earth in the fact that Palo Santo in some practices, instead of being used as a cleanse, it is actually used to hide your work from others and from the spirit realm. So, depending on your path, depending on your practice, I would personally lead towards water, fire, but you could, again, depending on your practice, pretending pertaining to whatever your belief is, you could use any of the elements to do hidden work. That's what I got for you.
Totally agree with you, Paul. 1000%. Okay. Anybody got anything else? Okay, we'll jump into water. Okay, let's jump into dive. Well, dive into water. Dive sounds better than jump in, actually. So water element, super, super powerful, just like every other element. So we are predominantly humans comprised of water. It flows into and through our bodies and is very necessary for our continued existence. We pretty much, if you really, really look at us, we are suspended in a life-giving liquid while also growing inside the womb.
Oh,
Like we literally are always surrounded by water.
Warlock. Spirit tasting and education. High Tide Bash, Late Night, HH at Sidecar, San Marco. Spirit tasting and education. August 23rd through the 25th.
Simona, you seem to be unmuted.
We also seem to have lost our teacher. She should be right back in just a moment, folks.
Thank you, honey.
is about to start water, I believe, correct?
Yep.
Okay, bear with me.
Kelsey should be back in just a moment. She did not realize she was lost.
Let's see here. Okay. Let me know that you guys can hear me. I'm very sorry. I literally have no idea what happened. All of a sudden it closed out on me and it just was gone. So let me go jump back in and then we'll go back into water.
We can hear you.
Okay, fabulous. It looks like I'm hopefully a host or maybe, I don't know. Somebody might have to give it back to me at the end, but okay. Let's jump back in then. I don't think I'm gonna use my laptop anymore. It's making me frustrated. Okay, I'll just start over with water because I don't know where it cut me off at. So, water, super powerful element in super in so many ways. Humans are we are predominantly comprised of water. Water flows into and through our bodies. It's very necessary for our existence and our continued existence. When we are even developing in the womb, we are suspended literally in liquid and water. It's very essential for us. It also is essential for the earth to survive, for our home to survive and keep growing. It falls from the sky to nourish the earth, to nourish the fauna and the flora. It is there also as the dark, deep depths of the ocean. It supports the underwater landscapes. It is all of that. So the element of water is fluidity, it's intuition. It really mirrors the ebb of life itself. It represents everything, the vast deep seas, the serene lakes, the soothing, calming rivers and brooks, and the very raging rapids. So we see that duality in this element as well, to where it can both give life and be calming, soothing, and it can destroy and be destructive, and it can have that duality to it. When it comes to the element of water as well, water governs the depths and the realm of our emotions. Like it is very much where the vulnerabilities are, where our intuition is, our empathy, our wounds, our traumas. Like this is that place. Water very much governs that. So this, like I had talked, like I've touched about it, Paul also touched about it too. Like this is the most commonly used element when it comes to any type of like shadow work, self-reflection, emotions, things when it comes to like unseen, work when it comes to that, because this is the depth and it really governs that. But like Paul talked about as well, and I'm hopefully making it come across that you can use these elements in any every way and sense of the form. It's just gonna all depend on your practice, your beliefs, and what energy works for you. But water is very much traditionally and commonly like it's your emotions, like it's very much those depths. Because this has the ability to navigate and bring you into those depths, it's also thought to connect to your psychic abilities as well, and to really provide healing and spiritual transformations. It's also known for purification, for cleansing, for all of that, for really clearing out wounds and healing and purifying that to help with that. And then just want to make sure I don't miss anything. No, I didn't. So we're good on that. So when it comes to water folklore, guys, I couldn't even begin to try to cover all of water folklore. It's insane. honestly, when it comes to like the element, this is probably the one that like you can find the most folklore about. Like you find so much folklore about water. It's humans, like I said, we are predominantly made up of that element. We have always been very deeply connected to it. Like very, very, very deeply connected to it. I mean, if we go without water for just a couple of days, we die. Our ancestors knew this. They knew this well. They discovered it quickly. They understood that water had the ability to sustain and restore life. It also had the ability to take it away. So throughout histories and cultures, water has been revered. It's been associated with many deities, many spirits, many different souls. It's very commonly associated to the underworld. I mean, you have one of the most famous tales that brings it up is the river Styx. I mean, the Nile is very important in Egyptian culture. So I mean, there's a lot of water folklore, like a lot. Um, so like I said, one of the most famous tales when it comes to water is the river Styx. It is the river that is in the underworld, which is named Hades, by the way. And it separates the underworld from the world of the living. And it said that we actually cross that river. We have to actually secure passage from Charon, which is the ferryman, by paying him a coin, in order to be able to cross the river and to get into the afterlife. Before the Roman invasion, much of Europe was actually inhabited by a series of tribes. They were united by a very common language. They had a lot of similar spiritual beliefs. They were called the Celts, and the Celts believed that water was very, very sacred, and they viewed it as a liminal space as well. They viewed it as a place between our world and the other world, and as such, there's a lot of different myths that arise within this culture, within this area. Romans also had their own set of water beliefs and rituals. They kind of clash together, and we end up with a lot of different traditions and a lot of different things. But because you see this in history within these two main cultures, you also see this understanding that water has always been a very big cornerstone of society. It's been very, very important. Even after the pagan culture, after the Roman culture and the Roman civilization started to fall, and Christianity started to really come in a lot more. Romans and Mormons even took this and incorporated this in Christianity. Like they really took that in to try to it was so important they couldn't squash it out of the beliefs, out of the people. So I mean, it pops up in Christianity. There's so many different stories when it comes to water. You also see it still staying when it comes to urban legends and urban myths across Europe and across the UK about sacred wells, natural springs, natural founts that are riddled with folklore. I mean, we have the Fountain of Youth as well, which pops up. So there's just so many different areas. You see a lot of different myths, a lot of different folklore that revolves around rivers, specifically about sprites and spirits of rivers specifically. So you see that as well. But it's not just about freshwater sources. You also see a lot of different myths and legend where the ocean plays a very dominant role in human history, a very dominant role in myths and legends and cultures. I couldn't even begin to start to write and to put those in the study guide for you, because the amount of legends and folklore that has to do with the ocean specifically is so incredibly vast. I mean, you have many different cultures to where it is the belief that their civilization literally got their knowledge from a deity emerging from the ocean. Their ancestors believe that they literally are from the ocean. You have entire books dedicated to sea folklore and sea witchcraft and entities of the sea. It's just, there's so much when it comes to the sea. So I just encourage you to look into those on your own. It's going to really help you understand the element a lot more. And then you also have the concept of the fact that folklore and legends when it comes to water, it's not even just about bodies of water. You have numerous and numerous and numerous folklore that's about dew and mist and rain. I couldn't even begin to put it all in here. But to briefly summarize it, you'll see dew has long been used as a prized magical ingredient. It's been used for glamour magic. It's been used in protection. It was even thought that if you were dirty and children, that you would actually be taken away by fairies and cleansed by the morning dew so that you would be beautiful and lovely when you came home. It's thought that if you collected dew and applied it before sunrise on May Day or during Beltane, that you would actually be able to heal, and it could be used as a glamour. On summer solstice, it's thought that dew would actually increase one's strength. Like literally, the list could go on and on and on and on and on and on and on. So you can look into that as well for more ways to connect to that. While dew is a lot of times seen as a healer, you see a lot of folklore legends where myth is actually used to be a magical veil. You'll see mist used to represent the magical veil between the other world and us. You'll see it that comes up in a lot of Celtic folklore, specifically surrounding the Fae and other spirits, where they literally will arrive in mist and you can be carried away in mist. So there's lots and lots of different legends and myths and folklore that revolve around that. I do have a couple in the study guide. Rain, you see a lot of unique myths that involve rain. Rain comes up a lot, especially associated with life, fertility, and healing. You'll see it popped up with, Calendra, which is the daughter of Hades, in her death of her beloved, which is Arades, which is the son of Zeus. You'll see that pop up. You'll see that story, and so many other more. I mean, we're in April. April showers bring May flowers. I mean, that's still around. So we have a lot of legends, myths, and folklore that has to do with that. Like I said, there's so much. Like I literally scratched the surface with this. Like there's so much folklore when it comes to water. So if you want to connect this element, that is going to be a great starting point and a great way to do that. Is just really dive deep into the extensive folklore of this element. So correspondences that have to do with the element of water. Gender is going to be feminine. Planet's going to be the moon, Neptune, and Pluto. Time's going to be twilight. Season's going to be the fall. Direction's going to be west. Tarot card's going to be the cups. Zodiac sign's going to be Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. Symbolisms, themes, and spell works you can do are going to be emotion, intuition, psychic ability, love, your unconscious mind, fertility, self-healing, reflection, lunar magic and energy, really doing deep shadow work, deep emotion work, cursing, and death magic. Symbols: oceans, lakes, rivers, fogs, mist, dew, springs, ponds, rain, sea glass, shells, chalices, cups, seaweed, hagstones. I would love to find an actual hagstone. My son's found like 5, but I've never actually found one. And cauldrons as well. And really anything that associates you to water. Deities, there's a lot. But some to get you started. Most people know of Poseidon, and then you have Danu, you have Neptune, you have Ganga, you have Satet, you have Enki, Tiamat as well, you have Keratin as well. There's so many. Susanoo, I love Susanoo. So many of the deities, so those are some that you can start with. For nature spirits, you have the undine, nymphs, mermaid, finfolk, water maidens, water horses, kelpies, banshee, water cows, fairies that are associated specifically with wells and streams and ponds and lakes, and lots of other spirits you work with. You have colors like blue, silver, white, gray, indigo, aquamarine, and a bluish silver or black. And then foods or drinks that are going to work for you are going to be water, teas, and apples, coconuts, strawberries, watermelons, things like that. And then herbs are going to be seaweed, aloe, water lily, lotus, moss, gardenia, chamomile, lettuce, eucalyptus, things like that. Crystals and gemstones. You're going to have moonstone, pearl, aquamarine, amethyst, lapis lazuli. I love lapis lazuli to connect water. Topaz, opals, coral, blue tourmaline, things like that. Animals, you'll have frogs and crabs and lobsters and sharks and eels and snakes and sea otters and dolphins and things like that. Salamanders as well. And then jellyfish, you'll have as jellyfish, and then some dragons, you'll see as well in some cultures. Ducks, geese, water birds, things like that. Ways that you can connect to water. If you are water sign, obviously you may, I guess I should say obviously, you may have a stronger affinity to water. You may be called to work with water more. You may be pulled to work with water more. Other ways to connect to water will be ritual baths and bath spells. Making magical waters like rose water, lavender water, sun water, moon water, war water, storm water. Like there's a lot of different types of magical waters. If you want to learn how to make moon water, I already have a study guide on divinationacademy.com. I also have a blog post on my website, Mod Podge Mystic, for my business. On that, I also have one on sun water that's connected to my entire article on solar magic that you can look at on how to make sun water. If you follow my Pinterest, I have how to do lavender water on there. I have how to do rose water on there. I think I have Florida water on there too. And storm water, I think right now. So there's lots of different ways that you can do that. You can literally like send off leftover spell remnants into a flowing river or creek or down a flowing water space. Sometimes even just flush it down the toilet, to be honest. You can do water or mirror scrying. If you don't know how to do that, I do have an entire class on working with mirror magic that's on YouTube that you can watch, and a link in the study guide for you to read. You can do message or spell bottles that are literally sent off into a body of water. Storm magic. You can work with sea gods and goddesses. You can brew teas and other concoctions. You can do simmer pots. You can make infused oils and salves. You can use floating candles for spells. You can collect rain or river water. You can use dew to use it in spells. You can do snow and ice spells. I love doing snow spells. I live in Minnesota, so I love it. And then you can do herbal sprays as well for purification and cleansing. Like I said, this is a beginning list. There's so many other ways. Shadow work is also a great way. Anything that's going to attach you to your emotions is a great way to connect to that as well. Let's see. Okay, I'll jump into the chat, see if you guys have any questions, and then we will be doing fire, spirit, and elementals though. So we have left till the end of class. Okay, let's see. I'm not sure. I'm missing a bunch of the chat, so I don't. Yeah, I'm missing a bunch of chat, so I don't quite know what's going on. But it looks like Paul's answering. So if you have a question, I didn't quite see it. I think Vincent, it was the most recent chat that I can see says is from Honey, and it says, I'm not sure what a walk-in or star child is, but are they similar to a Syrian? Depends on what belief system you're coming from when it comes to, because that's the thing. Star child it depends on which culture and which belief system you're pulling from as well. That can look very different on what their capabilities are and what you're also referencing to. So it also depends on that. But yes and no. Honey, were you talking? Because I definitely, for some reason.
No, I just accidentally unmuted myself.
Okay, I was gonna say, please tell me if not, it's not now. I can't hear you because I'm gonna get mad at my laptop.
No, also, I'm pretty sure that was just me not understanding what that term was. And
Okay,
someone else said when you're talking about the water, Yamaya, goddess of the ocean, Orisha.
wait, what? Can you repeat that?
Someone just stated Yamaya, goddess of the ocean, Orisha.
Oh yeah, for sure. You can totally work with. Yeah, for sure. Thank you for whoever put it in the chat. Thank you for putting that in there. That is definitely yes. How I meant it was an alien soul in a human body or a dimension hopper. Okay. Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. I do see that definition often. So, I mean, yes and no, then to Honey's question. Okay, so any questions on the, what else did we do? I see, I'm so, how did I answer now? Any questions on the element of water? If not, we're gonna jump into fire. Okay, I don't see anything. We'll jump into fire. Okay, so I want to preface this. A lot of people think that fire is simply like an external force, but it's not. Fire is within and without. It's both as much a part of the world as it is a part of ourself. The element of fire is meant to drive away darkness. It's meant to warm cold bones. It's meant to stir our passions inside of us. And it, like I said, it does not have its own physical existence like other elements. It comes into being as light and heat in a very powerful and dramatic fashion. And then it is literally, once it's there, it consumes an object and it disappears back into a completely other realm. So fire is very often linked to the masculine energy. It's very, very protective. And a lot of times you'll see it depicted as volcanoes, the phoenix, and transformations. Like very often, like you'll see it wrapped up into this sense. Fire very often is associated with new beginnings. It's associated with energy, courage, anger, passion, lust, war, and purification. It's a very perfect element to work with during the summer months when the sun is its strongest, which for us in our solar system is the source of fire for us. And fire is also really kind of one of the perfect elements that we have to enact change, especially social change, because like I said, it comes into existence in a very magical, powerful, dramatic way. It burns things to the ground, it changes it, and then it's gone. So it's very, very good for enacting that social change. It is a very, very like fire, it dances with this very intense, very captivating energy. It embodies our passion, our creativity, our willpower. Like that is the willpower that we have to literally survive. Like for me, like when I'm like, that's a big reason why, like I think Paul kind of talked, if I remember correctly, Paul touched on using fire when it comes to doing like deep shadow work and things. And it's because like it's that willpower. Like it's that fire that burns in the pits and the depths of your soul to literally just keep you going. When I have been in some of my darkest of times, like it doesn't matter, like calling the depths of my emotions, like that didn't help me keep going. Calling on the tiny, 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 tiny spark of will fire that's still burning in my soul that hadn't been stomped out. That's that ember there. Like that's what kept it going. That's that passion. That's what moved that transformation to like keep me going. So it's really, really there. It also represents like our desires, our ambitions. Like it really is what we truly actually want. It's what we desire. That's why a lot of times you'll see us attached to our sexual needs and our sexual passions and lust and things like that, because it is our desires and ambitions. It is also seen as that energy that propels and moves us and drives us forward. You can see that in a lot of senses when you think about kinetically, like what that energy does. If you think about also when you've got a fire raging behind you, like you're running, like you're moving, like you're getting away from it, it really just pushes you and drives you forward. Um, like I said, a lot of people really view it as a very destructive element, but I love it. Like fire is it's cathartic as well. Things have to burn down. Things sometimes literally they just need to be burnt down and start over in order for actual growth and things to change and to have that very potent force. Also, if you look in nature, after a wildfire, after a forest, after a volcanic eruption, that soil is it is the most fertile soil you can plant things in to grow and harvest and manifest. So fire in that sense, it's also very nurturing and energy when it comes to that, because it burns things down so it can be fertile to grow. And it really is a catalyst for our awakening, our spiritual growth, and very much understanding our personal power and who we are. So a lot of times, a lot of witches and practitioners, they'll also use fire and this energy to manifest their desires, to really transform our actual nature and really pull us forward. Also, a lot of times with creativity as well. Okay, when it comes to fire folklore is incredibly prevalent as well throughout humankind and human history. Fire has for an incredibly long time been coveted, not only as a life bringer, but as a source of transformation as well. How we first acquired fire is incredibly debatable. Every culture pretty much has a different story when it comes to this. But it's very, very, very common that we weren't supposed to have it and we got access to it by stealing it. That's actually very, very common. But because we have it, that's why we're able to actually prosper and grow. And some people think that that's actually a big reason why we differ from other animals on the planet, is because we got access to this. It represents all that transformation, that growth, and all of that. When you look at from the Greeks to the Cherokee to the Hindus to the Aztecs, like literally almost all of these stories, like I say, they talk about a theft. They talk about the fact fire was really, it was stolen from some greedy source that wanted to keep it all for themselves and didn't want to give it to us. So we went and we stole it and we took it. So for example, in Greek mythology, the Titan Prometheus stole fire from the gods, giving it to us, which gave us the skills also of metalwork. And he did it simply because he loved us and he felt like it didn't need to be kept from us. So then he actually was banished to Tartarus. But because we were gifted this, we were able to progress in civilization. And this actually is why ultimately, like, the first temple was a fire temple in Greece, because like it was actually what enabled and allowed us to progress civilization. In a lot of various Native American tribes in the Pacific Northwest, a lot of them say that it was either a a coyote, a beaver, or a dog that stole fire and gave it to humans. Also, there's one that talks about a rabbit that he stole fire from man to give it to his two daughters to be able to share it with humans. And then you also have a possum and a buzzard myth as well that you can take a look at. When it comes to fire, like I said, is incredibly sacred and revered by our ancestors. Many of our shrines and our temples and our festivals were specifically dedicated to fire. So in ancient Greece, they had their very, like, every private and public hearth was regarded as an actual sanctuary, was regarded as an altar, it was regarded as a sacred space, specifically for the goddess Hestia. She also is said to have a very sacred and responsible duty of keeping and maintaining the fires of the Olympian hearths, and making sure that they were there, that they were maintained. So she was actually a very prominent deity within Greek culture. She would get the fat animal sacrifices so that she could maintain the hearths for the gods. And she was most often actually even given the first offering and sacrifices. Like, that's how important fire was and how crucial it was to make sure it was maintained. Hestia, then, you see her in a Roman equivalent in Vesta as well. And Vesta's temple was incredibly important. I mean, the Vesta priestesses, the Vestals, they were incredibly important. We even have sacred prostitution tied to them, which falls into being very important to sovereignty and the rulers and things like that. The Celts also talk about there being two sacred flames before Christianity, and they even Christianized one of them, which is Brigid. Like, she was Christianized and turned into a saint, even because she was so important and so sacred. So that's another way that you see fire popping up. And then you see fire popping up in a lot of different folklores, myths, and legends in reference to the sun specifically, where you have Sol and Helios and Ra and Amaterasu and so many different other mentions. In Wicca, you also have to where it is very much seen to where the equivalent of the god. It's represented in Beltane. You see very commonly represented in Beltane, where the fire and the god and that energy that's Beltane's all about. and bringing about that change, that transformation, that sexual growth, and all of that. So there are many, many, many different folklores, legends, and myths that surround the element of fire. I broke them down in the study guide for you to read, and then you can use that as a way to study and connect that element more as well. When it comes to the element of fire and correspondences, you have the gender of masculinity, planet Sun and Mars, time noon, season summer, direction is south. The tarot cards are going to be wands or swords depending on your belief system. Zodiac signs are going to be Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. The symbolism, themes, and spellworks are going to be destruction, strength, courage, power, passion, lust, sexuality, anger, new beginnings, protection, loyalty, transformation, willpower, achievement, all of that. Symbols, you're going to have the atom, candles, swords, wands, the dagger, lamps, flames, volcanoes, sun, heat, all of that. When it comes to deities, you have Hestia, Vesta, Brigitte, the Morrigan, Freya, Ra, you have Prometheus, you have Sekhmet, you have Amaterasu, you have by the way, I taught a class on Sekhmet as well and the Morrigan. You can catch Morrigan already on YouTube, and Sekhmet, the study guide, is on the website. And I'm teaching a class on Amaterasu on Sunday, by the way. So you have lots of deities that you can look at. Nature's, you have the salamander, dragons, phoenix, the jinn. Alex, our director, has an amazing class on the history and mythology of the jinn. There's another class coming up soon on them as well, by the way. Colors, you have red, yellow, orange, crimson, gold, and white. And then for foods and drinks, you can do chili, beans, stuff that's kind of like spicy. Ham, meats, orange juice, coffee, beans, things like that. Herbs, you have cinnamon, cloves, ginger, allspice, basil, marigold, garlic, nettle, juniper, anything that's going to be associated with the sun as well. Crystals and gemstones, you're going to have carnelian. That's my favorite. When it comes to the element of fire, I love carnelian. Red jasper, bloodstone's my second favorite. Garnet, ruby, you have gold, pyrite, fire opal, lava stone's another one I love to use, tiger's eye. And then animals, you'll have the lion, snake, the fox, bees, sharks, scorpions, horses, and tigers. Ways that you can connect to the element of fire. So if you are a zodiac sign ruled by the element of fire, this may, again, be an affinity for you. You may have an increased ability to work with this element, and you may just be drawn to working with this element. People, like I said, who are fire signs tend to be really, really passionate, and you can kind of get enraged sometimes. So also make sure that like you are doing a little bit of love working to kind of counter that. I always try to do both to keep balance when it comes to working with the element of fire. But you can do candle spells, sunbathing, solar magic. Like I said, on my website, modgepodgemystic.com, I have a very extensive guide on solar magic on there. So you can do that. You can do fire scrying, hearth magic. You can burn old belongings to release old habits and negativity. You can burn bay leaves for manifestation rituals. You can burn things to release. You can do smoke scrying. I love smoke scrying. Burning incense and doing incense for clearing, storm magic, alchemy with metals. There's some alchemy that you can do, sex magic. Great way to connect to this element. I already taught 2 classes on sex magic. Sex magic is a passion of mine. Love sex magic, very, very central to my life and to my practice. You can watch part 2 already on YouTube. Part 1 should be posted here soon. And then the study guides are on the website. And then doing any type of blacksmithing or forging, offering candles or burnt offerings to gods and ancestors and spirit guides, and then really just following your passion in life, and doing things that help bring back your willpower. Okay. And then I'm just gonna go right into the element of spirit before I jump in the chat, because we might go over just a tiny bit because we have the element spirit and then talking about elementals, and then we'll be done with class. So the element of spirit is the 5th element. It's not recognized by all paths, but a lot of paths do recognize it. It's also can be known as akasha, or ether, or aether. I've heard it pronounced both ways. Also spirit, soul. That's what this element is. So this element is all about our self-awareness. It's all about our wholeness, transcendence. It's all about the collective. It's all about the spiritual connection. Is very often represented like with white and purple. If you think about it, it's kind of like the crown chakra in a lot of Eastern religions and practices, and Abrahamic religions and traditions, like that halo aspect. Like this is like what that element is, and it's really meant to create this bridge and this connection between the natural realm and the magical spiritual realm and the collective unconscious. It is very much like everything around us. It's this interconnected, woven tapestry of energy and existence. It's the universal life force that breathes everything into all of these other elements, that breathes everything into all of the beings. Like this is the juiciness of like the connection of our divine, the connection of our spiritual growth, the connection of our awakening. This is when we're really honing into our highest purpose, our sacred contracts, our sacred purposes. That's what this energy is, are really all that. So this element really is about those themes of intuition and divination and spiritual growth and getting into connection with your higher beings, getting connection with ascended masters, divinity, figuring out how you actually even view divinity. Are you the divine? Are other things divine? Are both? Like, are you working with deities, ascended masters? What are you like? How do you view divinity? Like, how are you going to connect to that? Do you have the ability to connect to ancestors and seek guidance for them? Are you going to work with them? Like, so it's all about that and that magic and that theme. When it comes to folklore, we see the concept and the element of spirit and soul all over the place. There are countless legends and folklores where you see it, the spirit popping up in a very animistic view from a lot of animistic religions. For example, Shintoism, which I just taught last week. They come from a very animistic view and a very animistic religion. Animism, which is derived from the Latin word anima, it literally, which means breath, spirit, or life. And it's this idea that literally all things, living and non-living, have spirit within them. They're all connected to the collective and the unconscious. So that where we see that kind of, we start popping it up way back then. We start seeing it in folklore and history then. Later, you then see it kind of start to change and differ a little bit to where they start to differentiate living souls or spirit from that of non-living objects by the use of blood. So you'll see that with the Egyptians, you'll see that with Christianity, you'll see that a couple different places in folklore and history. And then you also see it, and then later it kind of changes again, where you see it in the Bible specifically. You'll even see it in Genesis. You'll see it in a couple other, in Judaism as well, where the soul is represented as the breath of life. So you'll see that in a couple other spiritual beliefs as well. So that pops up a lot when you think about it. A lot of our folklore and our myths and our legends, outside of being about the creation of the world and the realm that we live in, a lot of them focus on our spirit, our soul, the afterlife, what happens to us, what can happen to us, what is our spirit, what is our soul. So that's all of those legends, all of those myths, all of that folklore. Those are ways to connect you to this element of spirit. Other topics that you can also consider that will tie you to this, it's just too much for me to go into today. But you can look at soul eaters, you can look at ghosts, you can look at how, some people think that your spirit and your soul is connected to mental illnesses, and mental illnesses are connected when you have a disconnection from your spirit and your soul element. There's lots of legends and folklore about that. You can also look into demons. That's another topic that's going to be about this and has to do with your soul. I already taught one class on that, so you can check that out on the YouTube, and I have another one coming up. But there are lots of topics that help you understand this element and where its place has been in history and humanity. When it comes to correspondences, remember this element is meant to connect everything. So a lot of your correspondences are going to tie to that. So, and a lot of ways to connect them is going to tie to that too. The gender is going to be non-binary. The planet is the universe or the multiverse, depending on how you view your systems. For me, it's a multiverse. The universe is not the highest entity. So for me, I go up and I go to the multiverse. For some people, it may not be the case. Other, it may not even be the universe. Other, it may stop there. But time is infinite. The season is literally just the wheel of motion of time. It's literally all of time. For direction, it's central. Usually when you see spirit, it'll be like a lot of times like in a center of like a medicine wheel, or at like the center of sometimes a pentacle and a pentagram, or at the top. Tarot cards are going to be almost the entire literally the major arcana. Zodiacs, all of them. Like spirit encompasses all of them. Symbolism and themes: transcendence, joy, hope, wholeness, self-awareness, unity, transformation, ascendance, harmony, sacred contracts, your highest being, higher self. Symbols are going to be the spiral, the multiverse, the universe, the helix, light, infinity. Deities, any and all of them. This is the collective unconscious. This is the spirit, any and all of them. Nature spirits that you can connect to are going to be the world tree and the sphinx. And then colors are going to be white, silver, purple, and black. Food and drinks are going to be wines or spirits, liquors, beer, honey, sweet, chocolate, cacao. It's one of my favorite foods or drink for this type of work. Pound cake and eggs. Herbs, you have mistletoe, oak, chestnut, apple, lotus, ferns, and cannabis. And then for crystals and gemstones, you have quartz, pearl, opal, and amethyst. I like opals a lot for this. And then animals, you have the dove, deer, and the cat. So ways to connect to and work with this. Remember, this is fueled by everything. It's every thread of every energy and everything in between, weaving the whole, the multiverse, the universe, and the collective together. So ways to connect to this and work with this element are going to be ways that connect you to that. So chakra balancing, therapy of any kind, connecting to a god or goddess or a divinity, working with ascended masters, adding an altar for a divinity to your practice, to your sacred space, energy work, doing journaling, shadow work, reflection on your actual beliefs and your belief systems, visualizations, adding deities to spells and rituals, honoring a deity at a festival or a holiday, working, like I said, with ascended masters. A lot of that's going to be how you can connect to this element. Okay, let me jump in the chat before we quickly go over elementals to get done with the class here. I knew it was going to be really close for me to fit this all in. And like I said, guys, I didn't even include everything I wanted to include. So yes, let's see. A lot of time my circle is one up. I love that. I do fire for protection symbols. Wow, that's my favorite thing when it comes to if I choose to use one. It's for protection. I love doing that. Oh yeah, I totally agree with that, Vincent. Yep, yep. Ooh, Paul, that's super interesting information. So the rabbit is also an alchemy reference. It represents low fire or low flame and is often depicted with dogs, facing opposite directions. That is so interesting. Yay, Miss Adams, I'm so happy I'm teaching you things. Yay, I love to hear that. That literally is why that's why I do this. I genuinely love teaching you guys, and I hope that comes across. Like I genuinely just love giving as much information as I can. So I'm so happy. Oh, it looks like we had some people drop out. That's okay. Okay. I don't see any questions or any other comments, so let's jump in and finish with elementals. We've talked a lot about elements, the elements themselves. So let's jump into elementals because you've heard about them, especially if you've been with class with me. You've heard about them because I use them. I work with them. I call them in with every single circle I do. So elementals are considered interdimensional beings, which means that they can move through different planes. And likewise, they maintain an incredibly strong bond with nature, which is why many cultures consider them protectors or guardians of these elements and of Earth. So they pop up with a physician and alchemist, I can't ever pronounce it, Paracelsus. He talks about elementals and highlights them in the work, and that they're a hybrid quality of these entities and that they're neither human nor spirits. So that, like I said, that's very solidified when it comes to them. Each of these beings, they have a function of guarding and protect everything that's within its realm of influence. They are considered lower spirits, that they are not capable of incarnating into the material world by some cultures and some beliefs. Some don't agree with that, but that is very commonly accepted. However, it has been claimed that they are capable of assuming human forms and other appearances. It is said that they watch over our planet and then they can aid us on spiritual journeys, and if they're treated with respect. So, gnomes are the elementals of Earth, and a lot of times they look like old men with white beards and the ceremonial charm. They live in underbrush. They're found in trees and roots and soil. They live in mines of the earth, take care of the hidden treasures that lie there. And they're really the guardians of all the treasures and the precious metals that are hidden within mountains and deserts. As earth elementals, they also like gardens. Hence, that's why it's very common for people to place figures of gnomes around green areas of their home and around their gardens, because it calls forth protection and wisdom, and it just really invites them there. Though gnomes are generally a bit grumpy, they are typically happy to help humans in their earthly quest. And they really like to also impart varied wisdom and knowledge. Because they're keepers of the material safety, they are very much known and used to be called for protection of our physical matters and to help us aid in doing what's right for the planet. They're very much connected to the planet of Mars and connected to the signs Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. And you can invoke an elemental by using salt as an offering on a plate. So if you want to invoke an earth elemental like a gnome, you can place salt on an offering of a plate. You can also bury a queen in soil and ask them to intercede with the spirits of the earth so that you can have prosperity and riches in your life. I've done both. I do both all the time. There's always salt on my altar for them to be present. I've buried countless coins in my yard. The next elemental that we'll talk about is going to be the undines. They are the water elementals. Their name actually derives specifically from the Latin word unda, which means wave. Come in a lot of different shapes and forms, such as mermaids and nymphs. But typically they're thought of as a collective of body of water itself, and that the undines are actually present in each and every drop of that water. Their presence represents the beauty of dreams, and they like to live and protect waterways. They're typically seen as being benign, and historically they like to aid sailors on safe passage. They are also very most closely linked to humans, and their appearance can be thought to look like very beautiful angels as well. If you want to have undines be present in your life, you work with water very closely, never really waste it. You understand that's a very sacred element, and you support having a very balanced and healthy emotional life. They're connected to the planets Saturn and Mercury. They're also connected to the signs Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. And then if you want to invoke a water elemental, you can work with crystals of the moon and the cycles of the moon, and you can perform rituals on the full and the new moons. You can set up an altar of water at the center and really allow it to soak up that energy. And then you can drink that water or bathe in it the next day. So you're pretty much creating moon water is what you'll be doing in order to invoke that element. The next elemental is the salamander, which is the elemental of fire. So they don't necessarily appear as slithery like amphibians like they might think. They very often actually appear in like a reptilian form, very closely related to dragons. So fire elementals also, though, they can appear in little balls of light that glide across water. They're also seen as being very thin and dry, and sometimes seen as being like similar to a grasshopper or a cricket at times. Like I said, because it's an element that doesn't like exist in this realm, so it creates and comes up. Because it's also associated with creation and destruction, salamanders can both cause, control, and extinguish fire. They are very much rooted in rooting out negative forces, then hexes and curses. So they're very much known for protection. They have the ability to clean and purify lower passions, lower vices, and lower vibrations. And they have the ability to purify and burn away things that hinder our development. They are connected to the planets of Suns and Jupiter and the zodiac signs of Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. To invoke a fire elemental, to invoke a salamander with flame, You really just safely have to light a fire, so you can burn a candle or burn incense and practice fire gazing. Feel the warmth of the fire lighting your own internal flame as you're doing this, and then you can call upon the salamander to reignite any lost passion or to help you have strength to carry out difficult tasks and to help you like aid you in evolution and transformation. And then the last elemental that we have here is the elemental for air. So a sliff, like air, is very ethereal, and that's the element for air. And it really doesn't take physical form, but it's really seen as this very whimsy, kind of like much like clouds. Um, though some folks actually see like very fantastical like flurries of light and color, a lot of times they'll actually appear mentally and even like in the thinnest of like air, like the very thinnest of air. These creatures are also said to, if they like take on a solid form, to appear like very beautiful children with like the rosy cheeks, almost kind of cherubs a little bit. But they can also be seen as mischievous in character because they represent thought. So they're represented directly to our inspiration, our knowledge, and our communication. And because they are known for like travel, that's why they can also be mischievous. They are thought to be the causes of winds. They are thought to be the ones that shape our clouds, and that they have a very prominent role in the growth of our plants and our flowers in particular. They carry sustaining energy that nurtures all living things on their breath. So they're very important in that sense. They're attached to the heavens and the earth, and they're attached to the planets of Moon and Venus, and then they are attached to the zodiac sign of Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. To invoke a sliff and an air elemental, it's all about intention. Because they lack form, they are very, very comforted by like faith, and they don't want to be alone. So if you pay respect to like the eastern sky, pay very much attention to the breezes across your cheek, you pay very much attention to your breath work, you're gazing at clouds and skies, you're going to be able to invoke them and work with them a lot more, and you're going to be able to encounter them a lot more, again, because they just don't like being alone. So we've talked a lot when it comes to elements, the elementals. There's a lot that you guys got to take in, and the beauty of all of this is these 5 elements and working with them and having them. It really is just a way to connect you to the natural world around you, to the energies around you, to work the natural world and the energies around you. And remember that they have a duality to each and every element. They have a duality to each and every concept. You got to sit with these elements, figure out how you feel about them, how they resonate with you, and how you want to work with them. Okay, guys, that's everything I have for class today. So I'm going to jump back in the chat, see if you guys have any questions, any more comments, any feedback, anything else for me. For this, I'm going back to this. Oh, come on, guys, if you're putting things in the chat, hopefully I can see it in just a second. Okay. Give me one more minute. It says it's loading for me. I am very frustrated with this, guys, and I'm so sorry. My technology's been not very cooperative. What is happening?
If you can't find chat, I can read it to you if you would like. Kelsey? Yep. And we lost her.
I think she's been having internet problems.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Did you have a question at all, honey?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to ask if spirit is an element and all the rest of the elements have elementals, what is spirit's elemental?
Self.
Helps. Okay, cool.
No. Self.
Oh,
S-E-L-F.
self. Oh, okay, self.
The
Thank you.
divinity of self.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, hey guys, I'm so sorry. I switched to my desktop. I am never using my laptop again. I'm done with it because it's being dumb. So I finished class, guys. I'm really, really, really sorry. What other questions, comments, feedback do you guys have for me? What did I miss in the chat? If anything. But again, guys, I'm really sorry. Thank you so much for being with me. Because literally I just it's my technology, it's my internet, it's being in the Midwest and we have crappy internet, crappy fiber optic cables, and my internet goes out at least once a day. So
Kelsey,
yes.
honey did have a question, which was, what is the elementals for spirit?
What?
What is the elemental for spirit?
As far as I've come across, I haven't found one. I haven't found a culture that has an elemental tied to spirit.
No, I've always reserved it as self, i.e., one's own self, one's higher being.
I could agree with that. I could see that, and I could agree with that. That would make perfect sense. I would make perfect sense. So, honey, I will dive deeper into that. Because I could see that being what the elemental would be. Vincent the Void too, I could see that possibly being it, and chaos as well. Like I could see that possibly being it as well. But I have not found anywhere, like in any written documentation yet, to where like I see a specific elemental listed for spirit. I knew that honey was gonna point that out though. I knew it.
With my only question, I got you.
You did it, and I knew it too. As I'm writing it, I'm like, if honey's in class, she's gonna be on me. It's like, but Kelsey, you're missing an elemental. Okay, what else you guys got for me? Any other comments, questions, feedback before we head out for the night? And again, guys, thank you for hanging in with me tonight with all my technology issues. I'm not using my laptop anymore. Okay, I don't see anything. So I'm gonna hope that I did well. I'm gonna hope that I was able to teach everybody a bunch of new stuff. And I'm really, really happy that you guys are here with me. Thank you so much.
If you guys liked what you saw and you're not a student, you can send us a direct message to enroll. So that you can get access to more information. I have a class coming up on Sunday. We have dice reading tomorrow. We have Jinn mythology on Saturday. The next magic and witchcraft basics class will be a month from now because I teach 8 series, so I rotate them through. And I'm doing solar magic. So I am doing solar magic next. I'm pretty excited about that one. For me personally, I feel like everybody gives the moon so much hype and lunar magic so much hype, but solar magic is so much more important. It's so much more potent. It's so much more powerful. And I think it's crazy underrated. So I'm really, really excited to teach that one. And then if you like all of my stuff, you can always check out my other content, all the other content that I create at my own business, which is modgepodgemystic.com. I do stuff on lots of different things there. So you can definitely come check me out. So thank you so much for being here, you guys. I love you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you letting me be a guide, a mentor, and a teacher. And if you ever have feedback, you can definitely reach out and let me know. Okay, have a good night, everybody. I'm probably not the host right now. So whoever's the host, you'll have to probably end the recording. And then be able to leave the chat. Can whoever is, otherwise you can maybe give me back the host, but you'll probably have to hit end recording, stop recording, and then it'll.
The host is Paul.
Host is Paul? Okay, Paul knows what to do then, so it should work.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you. Have a good night.